Hello, my name is Lizzie Thomas, and I'm a researcher in the Research in Mathematics Education Unit at SMU. Thank you for agreeing to serve as an expert reviewer on our Measuring Early Mathematical Reasoning Skills project, also known as MMaRS. We've recorded this video presentation to supplement the materials that we emailed to you. During this video, I will walk you through the materials and share directions to complete and submit your feedback. Please know that you're welcome to email or call anytime if you have any questions. Those questions will be directed to Cassandra Hatfield, whose email address and phone number are listed in the Notes tab of the Excel spreadsheet that we sent to you. To start, please make sure that you have both of the emailed materials handy. As you view this video, the purpose of your review is to provide input about the spatial reasoning test items that we've developed as part of the MMaRS project. Please know that the research team has spent a considerable amount of time and resources to develop and validate the learning progressions upon which these test items and sub-component constructs are framed. We've also completed extensive reviews of research literature, assembled an assessment inventory, worked with classroom teachers, consulted with our technical advisory board, and completed both cognitive interviews and think aloud interviews with students in kindergarten, first and second grade to develop these draft items. That said, these items are still in development, and we value your expert feedback as we move closer to the pilot testing phase of the project. Specifically, we would appreciate your thoughts about the following: the alignment of the item with the learning progression for each construct, the accessibility of the item for students in grades K through 2 who have emerging skills in language reading and mathematics, the appropriateness of the visuals and manipulatives used for the associated subcomponent and K through 2 students, and finally, possible sources of bias that may unintentionally privilege one group of test takers over another. Now, let's talk about the structure of the assessment items as they are shown in the PDF that we emailed to you. At the top of each item, you'll see the item code, which aligns to the codes in the Excel file, as well as the subcomponent description from the learning progression. This will be important to situate yourself within the concept we are aiming to assess with the following items. Some but not all of the subcomponents have a scaffolding question, but all of the subcomponents will have 2 content questions, CQ1 and CQ2, and 2 reasoning questions, RQ1 and RQ2. In addition, not all subcomponents are eligible in all grades, so you will see some columns grayed out to indicate that the subcomponent is not assessed in that grade level, and you need only focus on the ones that are there. The first column of the table with the header show outlines the materials or images that the assessor will need to show the student to administer this item. For example, in this item, the assessor shows this image that includes a stimulus and response options. The second column of the table with the header say outlines the item's directions. The italics text are directions for the assessor's actions, and the non-italicized font is what the assessor will say to the student. So for this example, first grade CQ1, the assessor would say, imagine pushing these 2 figures together like a puzzle piece to make a new figure. Which new figure could you make? And as I'm saying those things, I would point to the stimulus when I mention it, and I would point to the response options as indicated by the italicized font. In addition, a few items are followed by a question in which we would like more targeted feedback. Like in this example, we would like your feedback on the appropriateness of the aforementioned subcomponent, this one that we just viewed. We would like your feedback on the developmental appropriateness of the subcomponent for first grade. And there will be a specific place in your feedback form to share your thoughts. Let's walk through one more example from the assessment. This is the protocol for SRA-2B, which is assessing recognizing congruent 2-dimensional shapes of figures after a rotation. And you'll notice the variation in the subcomponent by grade level is related to the degree of rotation. The assessor will start with a scaffolding question, which is intended to ease the student into the item with a familiar object. The assessor shows the images of the gifts and asks, these two gift tags are the same. How can you make this gift tag look like this gift tag? And as I'm saying this and this, I'm pointing to the images in which I'm referring. And then the assessor will go on to CQ1, RQ1, CQ2, and RQ2. So now that we've walked through the structure of the subcomponent items, let's talk about your feedback and how to fill out the Excel that we emailed to you. You have been assigned a portion of the subcomponent items to review. Each subcomponent code number is shown in column A of the reviewer submission Excel file with one subcomponent per row. This code number will correspond to your PDF of the items that we just looked at. Column B in the Excel file shows the targeted learning goal. So for spatial reasoning, that would be within or between. And also the core concept for which the subcomponent construct is aligned. So in this example, we are in spatial reasoning within composition and decomposition. And the specific subcomponent construct that's aligned can be found at the top of each item in the protocol, as we observed earlier. And then column C features the grade levels eligible for that item. As you review an item, find the corresponding item code in your Excel and enter your feedback in that row. As you review an item, consider all of the components for each grade level. There will be a place to put grade level specific comments as well. We've asked 4 specific questions for each subcomponent in the Excel response template, and you will respond with a ranking of 1 to 4. These questions are about alignment to the learning progression construct. Does the item accurately represent the subcomponent construct? The appropriateness of language. Is the language used in the item appropriate for students in the eligible grade level? Are the questions written so that students in the eligible grade levels can understand the meaning of the problem? And as mentioned, the associated grade levels for each subcomponent are listed in column C of the spreadsheet for quick reference. The third question is the appropriateness of visuals and manipulatives. Is the visual or physical representation, images, base-time block manipulatives, etc., used in the item appropriate for the associated subcomponent construct and students in the eligible grade levels? And finally, free of bias in language and content. So does the item require background knowledge unrelated to the concept being tested that would differ for students with different backgrounds? Is the language sensitive to students from diverse backgrounds, students with limited English proficiency, and students with disabilities? We ask that you provide a numeric ranking of all of these questions. The scale is provided at the top of the Excel file, with 1 meaning you strongly disagree and 4 meaning that you strongly agree. Next, please provide your recommendations for improvement for any questions where you rank a subcomponent a 1 or a 2, so you disagree or strongly disagree. And please be as specific as possible when adding your recommendations to these cells. We really appreciate your feedback. So, for example, you may think that a specific word within the first reasoning question will be confusing for students in kindergarten. In this case, you would write in the recommendation cell, reasoning question 2, language of less may be confusing for some students. I suggest changing this to fewer counters. There is an example of how to fill out the Excel in the first row of the one that we sent to you. It's highlighted in yellow. The last section with the header overall comments or other recommendations is optional. Once you've added your rankings and recommendations, you may have overall comments or comments specific to just one grade level. separate from those 4 specific questions we're asking. So you can add those notes here. The ineligible grade levels have been blacked out for your convenience. So in this example, in that first row, that subcomponent is only in kindergarten. So you might add comments there, but you wouldn't need to look at the rest of it. And then finally, there's a space to add your thoughts on those additional targeted feedback questions. Again, if there's not a question for that item, the cell will be blacked out. The Notes tab in the Excel file outlines details of the response scale that correspond to the Excel file for quick reference. The Excel and PDF that we sent to you will only contain the items that you've been assigned to review, so you don't need to worry about navigating which you should be looking at and which you shouldn't, because the ones you have are the ones you should review. Once you finish your review of your assigned subcomponents, please save the completed Excel file and return it as an email attachment to Cassandra, whose email address will be in the email that you got all of that information in, and also in the Notes tab of your Excel. And we would like to have that back from you by August 1st. Again, many thanks in advance for your time, and we look forward to your feedback.